Okay, so a fan wanted to know what exactly was in the shaker that Stone Cold drank before setting
Protein.
you.
It was this protein milk. The single best segment I ever did in my wrestling career. He was the easiest guy to deal with. He was a big fan of mine. I got to WrestleMania. It was the day after WrestleMania in LA. I got to the building. Maven came over and said, "Dude, we're doing something with Steve Austin tonight." And I said, "What?" I couldn't believe it. I called all my friends and family, and everybody said, "I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing something with Stone Cold." This segment was so good. Pat Patterson came up to me afterwards, and he said, "That should have been on WrestleMania last night." And I said, "Yeah, Pat, it would have made me about $20,000 more. I sure as hell should have been on there." He couldn't have been cooler.
What was he like backstage? Just all
Awesome.
down
He
to
came up to us and he literally before we do the rehearsals in the afternoon. I'm sitting in the middle of the ring with like a piece of paper and I don't know what the hell we're going to rehearse. He comes walking to the ring, looks both of us, has his piece of paper, looks at the writer, he rips it in half and goes, "Simon, you do your thing. Maven, you do whatever it is you do, and I'll just do my thing. We'll just play off each other and go from there." And he walked around and looked at Maven and said, "This is either going to be awesome or it's going to be the shits. I'm scared to death right now." Live TV for I think it was 11-minute segment.
Did something happen between you and Roddy Piper to land you in the doghouse?
That's what I've heard that story before. They tried to give me a hard time one time overseas. I cleared the air with Roddy before he left. Apparently, before he died. Again, God rest his soul. But my crime at the time, believe it or not, we were in Italy, and this is 100% shoot. My crime was Roddy walked up to me in the hallway because we were going to do a segment that night out there. Roddy was there. He didn't want to be there. Johnny told me beforehand Roddy didn't want to be there. They brought him in. It was after Eddie died. They brought him in for the tour. Roddy didn't know anybody on the show. He didn't really want to be there. And Roddy told me that too. And I'm sitting backstage. I said, "What do you want to do, Mr. Piper?" And he literally told me, "You follow my lead, kid, and we'll just go back and forth." I said, "Okay, great." Well, I won't say. You can imagine who heard it. Somebody heard that and they blew it out of proportion that I basically came out and dared compare myself that I'd be able to go one-on-one with Roddy Piper. That was my crime. That I was going to go in the ring on a microphone and ad-lib with Roddy Piper. Let that sink in for a minute. So, yeah, they gave me a hard time about that one night. The next day after I pulled, because Benoit was involved in it, a couple other guys, and of course the next day, "I'm so sorry, no, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it." But again, it just continued to push that element in my head, like, this is the most fucked up, crazy bunch of people I've ever met in my life, that I'm literally going to catch flack because I said I was going to go out there and do my job and do the best I could at it. And I was good at it. So I was cool with Roddy after it, I guess. I talked to him like a year when he had I remember sending him a Christmas card when he had cancer that year. And as far as I know, I was cool with him. It sucks he passed away. He was a great heel. But that's another one of those, I guess, blown out of proportion stories, but it's something I don't miss. It's that whole world of crazy wrestling heat bullshit. And anybody who thinks otherwise, who was there at that time, look, man, go load your socks with rocks and go sink to the bottom of a river. I don't give a shit.
Could they have done more with that Sean O'Hare, Roddy Piper thing?
100%. I love Sean. Do I have to say it again? God, you're killing me, Devin. God rest his soul, man. I love Sean O'Hare. Legit ninja, great guy, super dude, class act. I spoke to Sean about 2 months before he passed away, and I wish that he had found peace. He was a hairdresser down in South Carolina. He was a good guy. Sean had the coolest look of him, and Batista had the two coolest looks of any workers I'd ever seen.
Thoughts on Mohammed Hassan?
I like Muhammad. He was too much too soon. Muhammad was a green kid. He's 100% Italian. His last name is Capani. He was not Iranian. He fit the mold of what they wanted. And they brought him up there. They gave him the big push. They were going to put the rocket on his ass. Work-wise, he wasn't ready for that yet. And it would have taken him a while. That goes again where guys are around for a long time before they get into those spots. He fit the part. They put him up there. A lot of guys, he didn't do himself any favors. He made a lot of dumb mistakes. But a lot of the guys really got on him for no reason that I saw. He made some dumb mistakes, but I think a lot of the guys were more jealous than anything else that he was going to get the big push, and they just couldn't take it.
Did you design the Simon Dean costume, or was that Creative
100%.
Services?
The color scheme was mine. The face on the back was mine. The Segway scooter was mine. I was at a casino here in Louisville, Kentucky, and I saw security guys on Segways one night, and my ex-wife said, "Look at that, they're too lazy to walk." And I looked at her, I said, "Oh my God, I gotta get one of those to go to the ring on." I showed it to Stephanie. She said, "This is great. I don't even know what it is, but I'm sure Vince will love it. Go ahead and get it." And I bought the Segway. All of it was mine.
Someone says you really rocked the mic in WWE. Do you think they gave that character a fair shake?
No. Because I wasn't necessarily, I was a guy who was an OVW, I was a tread, I was around for 10 years. I got up there, they gave me a shot. I was never maybe so-and-so's guy, so I didn't get pushed to the moon. It is what it is. I was a character. There's two types of guys, Devin. Guys who build a company around, or guys that can help build a company. I was a guy who they could put out there. My matches were bulletproof. I had heat. I was good at what I did. I could have had a much bigger run. I used to ask them all the time, give me some wins every now and then, so when you have me get beat by somebody, it means more. Oh, yeah. They paid me well. I had no complaints. My dad owned his own garage door company, and he worked it until he died. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and then worked part-time at Stop and Shop as a pharmacy tech. I'm a middle-class, blue-collar family, and I made it to stand in the ring at WrestleMania for the WWE. I had a better career than I ever could have imagined.
Would you have liked to have seen a BWO versus NWO versus DX War Games match?
No, because I would have been taking the fall on that somehow. I would have loved to have done something with the NWO on a show, but it just the nostalgia acts are over, man. Again, why do you think they're digging up Undertaker and Kane versus Shawn and Hunter? It just sucks because a lot of the newer guys aren't getting over. It's not necessarily their fault, but people know what they like. Ultimately, Devin, you can't tell the fans what they're supposed to like, and the people love the BWO.
How did you interact with Pillman in ECW?
Very little. I was there the night that he went in the ring and he did a promo in the ring, and then he came back at stage, and I might have been New Jack or somebody. I think it was some crazy incident that happened there. I just remember him getting a little fight with somebody. That was my only interaction with him. I recently met his son on some independent shows. Great kid, gonna be a good hand. I think he could be a star too. Really nice kid.
Could Kid Cash have done better in WWE?
Anybody could have if they wanted him to. Kid Cash, I love Davey. I'm the one that gave him his Kid Rock hat. I brought him as my tag team partner when Chetty went down. I had Cash be my partner. We teamed up. Davey, man, if you see this, I love you, brother. He's a legitimate tough guy too. Davey's done MMA. He's fought. He's a tough kid, man. I love Jamie. I love Davey. He's a good worker, good kid. Was always cool with Davey.
Do you still talk to Maven?
I haven't talked to him for years, and I wish I could. I wish I could track him down, man. I know he went through some ups and downs. He had some problems with some pills or something like that. He got arrested. One of the boys told me that he's a bouncer in Long Island. About 2 years ago, a mutual friend named Raleigh, I think, put him on the phone. Man, I talked to him for about 5 minutes, but I like Maven. He deserved better, too.
Someone asked if you have asthma problems.
I do. I have allergy-induced asthma, and that's why you'll see me catch my breath a lot when I talk fast. I don't always take stuff for it like I should, but you'll see me wheeze, and I'm just I don't want to say stubborn to take the medicine all the time, but I should. But
what current talents in WWE would you like to see them do more with?
Finn, I think Braun is a home run. Bray, obviously Drew. I'm partial to Drew. Cesaro, I hired him too. The younger guys who want to, Joe, AJ, the guys who are doing a great job now, who earn their stripes and they work hard, those are the guys I want to see.
Thoughts on Damian Sandow's release?
It sucked. I think that he got over and he wasn't supposed to. He was getting over. He outshined Miz at that point. This stunt double thing was awesome. It caught onto a life of its own. He caught lightning in a bottle. He wasn't supposed to. They didn't know how to promote that. He wrestled Miz one-on-one on Raw one time for the rights to the Miz name. And I remember when Miz beat him, I called him that night and I said, I think you just wrestled your last match there. And then they brought him out like after a week or two after that. It didn't work. Aaron's doing great. He's in California. He's been doing some pilots, some acting. He doesn't really wrestle anymore. But he started, he was 16 years old, Aaron. And he was so big. He was good. He was great on the mic. He made his own character. Like, WWE should be begging for that. Like, guys who create their own buzz and get over, like when Zack Ryder did it too. Like, guys that go out there and organically get something over and the people love it and they're starving for it and you got to give it to them like they did. They can do it. They did it with Daniel Bryan, with the Yes Movement thing and all that. The WWE was forced to change the WrestleMania main event because of that. Sandow should have still been there.
Thoughts on working for Shakira?
We had a good time there. I was misinformed about that. For years, I thought it was just a bunch of goofs wearing cosplay outfits and killing each other and doing a bunch of goofy shit that didn't make any sense. Quackenbush, I was totally wrong. Those guys worked really, really hard. They were a great group to be around. Mike's got a good thing there. The guys are all respectful and cool. When we went there and did the Trios tournament, he had told us, and we had the Bullet Club there that night too, He told us that we were the most requested act in the history of King of Trios was the BWO. That was cool to do that. I like Mike.
Are you still close with Meanie and Richards?
Yeah, we're actually. I just talked to me. I found Meanie. That's how I got you here through Meanie. Meanie contacted me. I just talked to Stevie 2 days ago. We'll get together. We'll do something. I'm sure WrestleMania week at WrestleCon. It'll give me something to train for, something to get ready. But again, if we can put something together promoter-wise up there, maybe a Dreamer runs or something like that. I wouldn't mind doing one last show with the BWO and then calling it a day.
Is it true you used to be a manager at Wendy's?
Sure was. My first full-time job was pushing shopping carts at a store for a grocery store. My last day there, they asked me to clean up some dead birds near the dumpster. I said nope. I walked down the street. I had $20 in my pocket. I went to Wendy's, had lunch. There was an application on the tray, and I signed it, was hired on the spot. And I would work at Wendy's all week long, and on Friday afternoon, I'd pack up my car and head out to do my independent shows.
Does your twin brother have anything to do with the business anymore?
No, and he will gladly tell you that. Donnie B would be the first one to tell you. He basically would say, I don't want to curse, but F wrestling. He promoted when it was over. He was done with it. He still follows it. A lot of our old friends from Sharps were in chat groups together and whatnot. The original Brick Clique, as we call ourselves. But Donnie happily left the business many, many years ago. He's got 2 houses. He's a cop. He's going to have a pension in a couple years. Him and my little brother took over my dad's door business when he passed away. So he's good, man.
How did you find out about Eddie Guerrero's passing?
Tomco. We were in a hotel in Minneapolis, I believe it was, and Travis came down there crying his eyes out. And I said, what the hell happened? He told us Eddie passed away. Eddie was a class act, man. He always treated me cool. I had great... my match that convinced... When I was done with ECW, Eddie was on the Indies. Eddie Guerrero was wrestling for Donnie B on Phoenix Championship Wrestling. I wrestled him one-on-one in my hometown of Toms River, New Jersey. Eddie had been getting jobbed out on the Indies. Believe it or not, there was a bunch of promoters who had been bringing Eddie in and beating him on their shows just so they could have their guy pin Eddie. Eddie wrestled me in my hometown. I refused to beat Eddie Guerrero. He wanted to put me over in my own hometown. I said, absolutely not. I can't. I'm not pinning you. And I was worried in this match that Eddie was somehow going to pull himself on top of me and like make me pin him in this match. But when that match was over, it was the first time in my wrestling career that I actually thought I could be a WWE superstar because I hung with him.
Thoughts on CM Punk and his MMA career?
He didn't have an MMA career. I mean, that's just reality. Philip, as I call him, I have no issue with Philip. I think Philip was smart. What I was glad to see him do, he walked away on his terms. He got to tell the company, go to hell, I made my money, I'm out of here. He got them before he got. You know, there's thousands of guys who got released from WWE, and they never got like a last chance. Punk said, nope, I'm out. And he took his ball and went home. I think he's married now. He does his own thing. I hope he never fights in MMA again. Punk was a protected guy on the shows. I don't think he had a legitimate background really in anything. He was a good character, and he was a protected wrestler. But MMA is a completely different ballgame, and I give him credit for trying it. There's a lot of guys who talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And he went out there and he got his ass handed to him twice, but he's also fighting against guys that are a lot younger, been doing it a lot longer, and it's a totally different genre. Ask me right now if I had aspirations to go play in the NBA, if I'd go on a court and go play with LeBron James or something. I mean, it's just comparable. It was insulting to think that he could just walk in there and do it, but I gave him credit for trying.
Thoughts on deathmatch promotions like CZW, IWA,
I think
Mid-South?
deathmatch wrestling sucks. It's not my cup of tea. I know there's an audience for it. I know there's fans that like it. I've never been a big fan of it. I like DJ Hyde. I love Ian Rotten. I've never done it. I don't see the skill in bashing baseball bats and glass over people's heads. I know each is to own. It's a required skill. I know there's guys that do it. If that's your thing, go ahead, man. It was never for me. I think there's too much risk for too big. There's not enough reward. The risk is too great and outweighs the reward. Let's put it that way.
And a lot of those companies don't even test their wrestlers
it's hard,
for what's...
Yeah, you know, you're not making any money and you're risking permanent injury.
Best thing about working for the Indies, and what do you think about the resurgence of the Indies?
Is the freedom of the guys have, they express their creativity, they're not walking on eggshells all the time. I think it's great. The more places the boys can work, the better it is. I will tell you this is unlike a time I've ever seen before in wrestling. I think within the next 6 months to a year, there will be a major company that is created from a group of guys, or who maybe 10, 12, 15 guys that get together. They get with a money guy, they get with a TV guy, and there's another major wrestling promotion that'll come up with it next year. Will it be successful? I don't know. But I'm telling you, within 6 to 9 months, sometime of next year, maybe after WrestleMania, whatever, you're going to see a wrestling promotion with, it's going to have some juice behind it. That's what I think.
Was there any heat between ECW and XPW guys back in the day?
Not the guys, but when Rob Black, I'll just tell you this, because I don't want to run long on time. When Rob Black and those guys came and they invaded the ECW pay-per-view in LA, XPW was literally beat to death in the middle of the street. The whole thing carried outside. That's a tale for another day, but they got beat down, and it was a crazy scene, man. I ain't saying who did what, because I don't want nobody to get in trouble, but it was nuts.
Do you prefer 20 by 20 or 18 by 18 rings?
Actually, 20 by 20s. It's more room. It gives you more. Wrestling's all about timing, and there is a difference between 18 by 18 and 20 by 20. There just is. It's an extra 40 square feet to move around in, and I believe 40 square feet. But no, 2 by 2. Yeah, I think roughly. But it's a different ballgame.
What was your favorite BWO tribute?
I don't really have a particular. Every single time we ever put that stuff on and went out there, it was a plus, because we never knew it was going to end, and we had the last laugh. Like the fact that was actually included on the WWE's Greatest Factions Ever DVD. The BWO was on that DVD. They're mentioned in the same breath of the Four Horsemen and DX. Let that sink in. That's nuts.
Thoughts on Trent Acid's passing?
That sucks. I had butted heads with Trent and Johnny in the past because they turned heel on Donnie B years ago. They made up before his passing, but it was again. I mean, you have to do the God rest his soul. But Trent was a young guy who was talented. He deserved a lot more if he had been able to give it to himself. But the demons got him, and he was just never able to beat it.
What was Shane McMahon like?
Cool dude. Shane just wanted to be one of the guys. I'm actually psyched that Shane's successful outside of WWE, because the company's not going to be his. When it's all said and done, it's going to be Stephanie and Hunter. So, I mean, the fact that Shane was able to create like an empire on his own was cool, but Shane just wanted to be one of the guys.
Hardest change from wrestling all over the world to being a family man?
It's the easiest change I ever made. I couldn't wait. The last several years in WWE, I couldn't wait to get out of the rat race, man. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I hated it. I hated going to work. I was miserable. I guess the biggest change is just not living the life of an outlaw anymore. You know, not living in a suitcase or getting 5 a.m. flights, or just being in a normal schedule, which I love. I'm a very routine, schedule-oriented person, and most people aren't.
Who has the worst breath in the wrestling business?
I don't know. That's a weird question.
Yes, it is.
Kenny Bolin. Yeah.
Have you ever met John Zandig? And if so, what was it like?
I had no heat with Zandig. I remember, honestly, Deb, you know when I met him? When he used to show, this is the God's honest truth. He used to wrestle on the Independence in New Jersey. A lot of people don't know this. John Zandig broke into the Independence as Icon. He was an Ultimate Warrior ripoff. He used to paint his face, put the tassels on, and he used to sell like 20 or 30 tickets to all the NWA shows, so Dennis would use him, and he really couldn't wrestle. But that was his gimmick. He was an Ultimate Warrior ripoff. That's how I first met him.
Can you give us a good Danny Doring story?
Yeah, with Danny, I mean, Danny was a guy who showed up. Danny worked hard. Danny paid his dues. I butted heads with Danny in the past over what I would call dumb wrestling heat. But my good Danny Doring story, if you guys really want a good one, as crazy as this sounds, the best thing I can say about Danny, he worked hard, but Danny, unfortunately, both his parents passed away, I believe, before the age of 30 for Danny. So Danny actually raised his little brother from when he was like a teenager, basically on his own. So Danny I believe he's married, has some daughters. He has a real job, a real life, but he basically raised his brother on his own, and he suffered through some shit that nobody ever should have to. So that's the best story I can give you on Danny.
Do you have any advice for new wrestlers on what to look for when buying gear?
Make sure it looks different. Make sure it stands out. Look at pop culture. Look at comic books, superhero, sci-fi. Something would catch somebody's eye. If you dress like a fan, then you should go sit in the audience and be a fan.
In your years traveling wrestling, where are the 2 best restaurants you've been?
I would say I love Waffle House and I love IHOP.
Hardest decision you've ever made in or out of the ring?
That I couldn't do more to fight to keep Angel Williams. And the hardest decision outside the ring was getting divorced.
I see.
That sucks.
All right, I'll wind it down here. Just a few more. How big is Batista actually?
6'3", 280, huge dude, but bigger personality. Personality's bigger than life. Great guy.
Do you think more guys need to get real jobs after the business
Yes.
passes them by?
I wish they would, Devin. I wish they. I would rather. I'd much rather people today look at me an example of what can be accomplished after pro wrestling than anything I ever did in my in-ring career. I actually do a lot of with Jared Ganem and the Inside Squared Circle guys. I do a lot of consulting and talking to guys and trying to get them on the path a little bit. Much more. I'd really rather guys look at what I did outside of wrestling than in it.
Was it fun working with Maven? This goes back to Maven.
Yeah,
again.
Maven was great. I loved it. We should have had a tag team title run. We were actually told we were going to, and of course, just like everything else, it got pulled out from under us. But we had heat. After we had that thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin, we should have been on a run with that.
I know you've said this earlier, you didn't mess with this, but what was the best towns for ring rats that you've noticed?
I would have to, your Orlandos, Las Vegas, all that kind of stuff. I never understood the attraction, though, of messing around with a bunch of girls who everybody else did, too. Like, I just never got that.
Do you think it's ever possible for wrestling to have a union?
No. It can't, because I don't necessarily know if it could, because at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of capitalist markets. If you work hard, but I do think that anyone who works for the WWE should be classified as an employee. You just came here basically as an independent contractor to film this. What if I told you, Devin, when you come to my house, you have to have a certain outfit on, you have to be here at a certain time, you have to leave at a certain time, you have to only eat certain things that I give you here, you have to only ask me if I did all of that, you're no longer an independent contractor, you're my employee. Like in WWE, you can't wrestle for anybody else. You have to do what they tell you to do. They can easily create some 401ks so the guys can do a match. The company's worth, I believe, $8 billion now with the stock valuation. I wish I had some stock, but I don't know how. Give them health insurance and give them 401k at least. Make them employees. Like, it's not that hard. Cut down the number of people you have. Maybe get rid of 10 or 15 extra people, but I don't know, man. I don't know how they're not employees.
What are your thoughts on Billy Corgan bringing the NWA Championship back?
I'm psyched for the guys involved. Any place is a good time. Any place at work is good for the guys. I don't know if it's going to work. I didn't even know the NWA was a thing. And again, I hate to say it until he was doing it. I love Nick Aldis. I'm glad Cody's got it now. He can put some prestige on it. I hope it works for them. But again, any place where the guys can get work. But that's not. I'm telling you, 6 to 9 months from now, summer of next year, I think somebody's going to get a money guy behind him. They're going to get TV. They're going to get 10 to 15 guys together, and you're going to see a promotion launch.
This is a stupid question, but Mary Kill or F, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, Triple H, Pat Patterson?
I would say Triple H for all of them. I mean, the guys, I love Pat. I never met Duke. I don't know Duke. But Pat's one of the smartest guys ever. Pat was always cool to me, but Hunter is at another level, man. Hunter is just the guy.
How crazy was the drug scene in the original ECW?
It was crazy, but nobody was ever an asshole about it. They all did. Nobody ever forced you to do anything. Everybody had their weed, their pills, their alcohol, their coke, whatever they all did. They just did their own thing. And a lot of guys went out there and worked like that, but that was their thing. I mean, nobody ever big leagued anybody or gave them a hard time or anything, man. It was the best environment ever.
Someone says they love your work in ECW and thought you were underrated. And have you ever met Bruno Sammartino?
No, I wish I could have met Bruno before he passed away. That would have been cool. And I appreciate the comment. And here's the thing, Devin, I love the fans. The fans was always good to me. Even the fans who would shit on me every now and then or talk crap, whatever. You guys paid for all of this. You guys got to give me a chance to go around the world. You guys put money in my daughter's college education. I mean, you guys took care of me. So you'll never read about a bad fan encounter with me, ever. The fans treated me great. I was always good to them back. So at least I think I was. But they let me live my dream. So.
How much did it cost in an average week to live on the road?
It depends. I was really frugal. I did all the coupons, shoppings. I looked for all the deals on hotels. We got hookups. I gave out comp tickets left and right to get pricing. If you were smart with it, you get a couple of guys who chip in with you, several $100s a week. But that's going to be your write-offs and all that stuff too. So.
And this is a fan question because I know Lance, but they're asking if you believe he really didn't do steroids.
Lance? I don't think he did. Lance is a legitimate guy. I hated Lance for a long time until we go back on. I don't know why I hated him too. When I first got ECW, I did But then when he came down here, he was training guys. We were really good friends, and I love Lance. He's a great guy. He churns out some good people at Storm Wrestling Academy. He's a good trainer.
Thoughts on Vince Russo?
I've never met Vince. I think a lot of people bag on Vince all the time, but I don't know why. Because if you're going to get on him from all the bad stuff, don't you have to give him credit for the good stuff too? Like, people only want to talk about the negative stuff he booked, but I don't know if they necessarily are giving him credit for the good stuff.
Someone says your forearms are looking huge, and the last question I'll ask is your thoughts on Paul Heyman's booking style, and do you watch today's product?
I'll watch to see my friends on there, or if nothing else is on Monday nights. Paul's booking style, it was hide the weaknesses, accentuate the positives. It was crash TV. That's what it was meant to be. He changed the policy. ECW changed the business. ECW ushered in WWE Attitude Era. They did. Let's not act like it didn't happen. And he was a visionary. He was just a bad businessman. I think if he had more of an entity behind him handling the day-to-day workings of it, it would have been better. But I don't know if Paul would have played well with others in that sense. You know.
Oh, this is a good question that I forgot to ask you about. I'll slip this one in. What was the locker room reaction after RVD slapped Taz?
We sat there in disbelief, talking about Danny Doring. Danny Doring and I were sitting right next to each other. And Rob was mad about something on a pay-per-view. Something happened. I don't even remember what it was. And we saw him do the pick a hand thing, and he smacked him. It was kind of like me and Danny were looking at each other. We didn't know if we should run away or what, because we didn't know if we should have seen that. And I looked at Danny, and he looked at me. We were like, oh my God, we're going to get killed. Like, we shouldn't have been here for that. And it was just weird. I wish they could have worked that out differently. That was one of the few times I saw tempers flare, especially from Rob. He was the most laid back. I love Rob Van Dam, man. Super cool guy, chill. I'm glad he. I know he had a little rough run there when he broke up. He got divorced, but he found somebody now. I just saw her not too long ago. I said, give Rob all my best when you see him. I love that guy.
We actually interviewed him, and she was in the interview with him recently. So
he's a great dude, man. Super cool guy.
Seems very happy too. And this, I'm shutting it down after this. But thoughts on Donald Trump?
Anybody who follows me on Facebook knows I'm a Trump guy. It's more for the gimmick of Trump. I get it. I'm a Republican. I'm not embarrassed about it. Some of the stuff he does and says is a bit outlandish. But we had 8 years of one style of thinking here in the United States of America, and then it was time for a change. So the voting public went out and they made a change. They got a Republican House. They got a Republican president. If they don't like it, guess what? They can change it again in 2 years. Me personally, I think he's going to run again in 2020. I think he'll win again. It doesn't matter who the president is in 2020 or 24, because I'm telling you, I don't think it'll be 2024, but in 2028, Dwayne Johnson will be the president of the United States. You're hearing this on this. Other people have said it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will 100% be the president of the United States one day. There's no doubt in my mind.
Did you ever wrestle him?
No, I wish. I met him several times in Gold's Gym out in Venice and some other place. He was always super complimentary. I would have loved to take in that rock bottom, man. It would have made him. Probably would have been meaning I made a lot of money that night, and it would have been it would have been on par with what I did with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What's your favorite Rock movie?
I liked the Fast and Furious stuff that he did. All his stuff is gold, man. It's another guy who came in here. I don't care that he was Rocky Johnson's son. If he wasn't, he still would have made it. You know what I mean? Like, the guy's work ethic, his charisma, it's undeniable, unquestionable. He's just bulletproof and Teflon. Everything he touches turns to gold. He's an utter class act. And he's somebody the business can be proud of.
All right, I'm closing the fan questions. Thanks, everyone, that